Alright folks, I want to do a video on the link between Baphomet, the goat of Mendes, Pan, and Satyrs. A lot of the reason why I want to do this is a lot of occultists will say there is no link, and that's just nonsense, folks. And I just want to try to kind of lay that case out. And what got me led on this is I was reading in Leviticus 17:7, and I noticed that the Israelites were involved in some of this this type of worship and sacrificing to satyrs and whatnot, and that's it's actually in the Bible here, and I want to start with that here. So let's start with Leviticus 17. In Leviticus 17, we are told that the Israelites were sacrificing to satyrs, half men, half goat beings that have been linked to the goat of Mendes and the Greek god Pan. Okay, I'm going to read you Leviticus 17:7, and I want to show you the word in the Strongs too. Let's start here. Leviticus 17:7. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. Now, the KJV translates the Hebrew word satyr as devils. But you'll see over here the NIV has it as goat idols, which is a little bit, it's a more accurate translation. But anyways, I'll continue. Leviticus 17:7, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a-whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them through their generations. Okay. Let me show you this. Here's the same verse, Leviticus 17:7. Let me enlarge this a little bit here. Okay, and here you see I've highlighted the word devils, and that's Strong's H8163. All right, well, let's see what they got to say here. Enlarge this too a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. Satyr, basically the Hebrew word for satyr. We translate that satyr in English. Shaggy, he-goat, by analogy a fawn. Devil, goat, hairy, kid, rough, satyr. Okay. All right, moving on here. So, the Israelites most likely learned this practice during their captivity in Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt, but obviously Egyptian culture still had some lingering effects. And you're going to find out why I believe that started in Egypt and where they got that as I continue on here. Number 3, first thing I want to mention, the source of all things occultic, in my opinion, is Babylon. Go back to Genesis 11, 1 through 9, if you want to read that. I've read some things that link the worship of these goatmen, hybrid gods, Nephilim, to Babylon, but I'm not satisfied with all of this information, so I'll refrain from commenting on most of it for now, but I will definitely do an update video if when I can make a stronger case for the connection. But my point is this, nothing much has changed. This type of occultic satanic worship has existed since the fall of mankind, and it continues to this day, though it's been repackaged and or renamed several times. Many occult practitioners will try to say that Baphomet, the goat of Mendes, and Pan are not linked, but this is just simply not true, folks. Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley, Anton LaVey, all famous occultists stated that these entities are all linked and basically represent the same thing. I'll explain more in detail as we go along here. Moving on to 4 here. Let's start with Eliphas Levi. Famous occultist and Freemason, Eliphas Levi, the man credited for the famous depiction of Baphomet titled The Sabbatic Goat, literally called his own image the goat of Mendes, people. And please note that the being in his image has a phallus or penis that is shaped like a caduceus, which is the staff carried by the Greek god Hermes, Pan's father in Greek mythology. So right there's the link, and I'm going to show you the image in a moment. So obviously, Levi believed Hermes was Pan's father, and he symbolized that belief and linked to Pan in his Baphomet image. Now, I got a couple images here I want to show you, folks, that'll tie this all together. Let's start with this one. Okay. This is Eliphas Levi's own image. This is what he drew, folks. This is the Baphomet. They call it the Sabbatic Goat, okay? And look right here, his penis or phallus, whatever you want to call it, you see the 2 snakes around a staff, folks. That right there, that's the staff of Hermes. Right there's Eliphas Levi's autograph on his own depiction here. This is a statue of Hermes. Right here is his staff. Once again, you got the pole, you got the 2 snakes wrapped around the pole, okay? And this is the caduceus. That's what that pole is. This here is called a caduceus. Okay. This is what a lot of modern medical companies and stuff have as their insignia. It's a caduceus. It's basically a symbolic of commerce and a few other things. It really doesn't have anything to do with anything medical. But it's actually one snake around a pole. The Asclepius is the medical insignia. But that's a whole different video. If you want, Google it. You can see the difference there. But the fact that this is even on, this is an icon for medical companies and whatnot blows my mind, because it's not the Asclepius, it's the caduceus. But I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I don't want to get bogged down there. Okay, more on Baphomet. Here's some excerpts from from Wikipedia on this subject. Baphomet was the deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshiping, and that subsequently was incorporated into occult and mystical traditions. The name Baphomet appeared in trial transcripts from the Inquisition of the Knights Templar starting in 1307. It first came into popular English usage in the 19th century during debate and speculation on the reason for the suppression of the Templars. Basically, they accused the Knights Templar of worshiping this thing, and they used that as an excuse to basically rob them, take all their holdings, and murder most of them. Okay. Moving on from that, though. Eliphas Levi, I knew I was going to butcher his name eventually. Anyways, Levi called his image the goat of Mendes himself. I stated that earlier. Possibly following Herodotus' account that the god of Mendes, the Greek name for Jedet, Egypt, was depicted with a goat's face and legs. Herodotus relates how all male goats were held in great reverence by the Mendesians, and how in his time a woman publicly copulated with a goat. E.A. Wallace Budge writes, at several places in the Delta, Hermopolis, Lycopolis, and Mendes, the god Pan and goat were worshipped. Strabo, quoting Pindar, says that in these places goats had intercourse with women, and Herodotus instances a case which was said to have taken place in the open of day. The Mendesians, however you want to pronounce that, who knows? I'm not going to get lost in that. According to this last writer, paid reverence to all goats, and more to the male than to the females, and particularly to one he-goat, on the death of which public mourning is observed throughout the whole Mendesian district. They call both Pan and the goat Mendes, and both were worshipped as gods of generation and fecundity. Definition for fecundity, I had to look it up, so I figured you guys might have to see it too. The ability to produce an abundance of offspring or new growth, fertility. So they were worshipped as fertility gods, folks. Probably like in the spring, go out there and have a big festival, You can Google that. There was a lot of fertility worship and stuff like that. I'm going to move on here. The link between Baphomet and the pagan god Pan was also observed by both Aleister Crowley and Anton LaVey. LaVey, who popularized the sigil of Baphomet, and I'm going to show you a pic here, what he popularized. Immediately, you're probably going to recognize it. You see this imagery on a lot of people's Facebook, a lot of practicing witches. They're going to have this type of symbology. And around this circle here, too, I found out, this is Hebrew for Leviathan, which is very, very strange. I don't really understand why they're linked together other than, it's a lot of people link Satan to Leviathan, and that might be part of that link, I'm not sure. And the older style, this one here was... This was one of the first Baphomets to be used, symbols. As you can see, that has Samael and Lilith written in the middle here, and the Hebrew words or Hebrew letters for Leviathan are wrapped around it too. A French author, what was his name? Stanleus de Gautia or something like that in 1897. That was originally from that guy, so... It kind of looks like LaVey was kind of working off what he had previously made. Anyways, LaVey said, many pleasures revered before the advent of Christianity were condemned by the new religion. It required little changeover to transform the horns and horns and cloven hooves of Pan into a most convincing devil. Pan's attributes could neatly be changed into charged with punishment sins, and so the metamorphosis was complete. So again here, LaVey's saying we're linking Pan to Satan, okay? As far as Crowley, the Baphomet of Levi was to become an important figure within the cosmology of Thelema, Okay, and clearly Crowley understood the links between Baphomet, the Go to Mendes, Pan, and all of that stuff from Eliphas Levi's work. He's obviously familiar with all of that. And he's putting this into Thelema, the mystical system established by Aleister Crowley in the early 20th century. Baphomet features in the creed of the Gnostic Catholic Church, recited by the congregation in the Gnostic Mass, in the sentence, I believe in the serpent and the lion, mystery of mysteries, in his name, Baphomet. So, I mean, it appears here that Crowley's also making a link between Baphomet and the serpent, which is probably, in his mind, Satan, Leviathan, however you want to look at that. If you want to read more on this, I'll post this link in the description, or you could just punch it in. A lot of this stuff came from the Wikipedia link on Baphomet. I felt like that link really, you know what, they did a pretty good job. They linked a lot of that information together, and it was presented thoroughly, and instead of using, excerpts from other books and other links, I just figured I would use that. I don't agree with everything posted in Wikipedia, but they did a pretty good job in that instance. All right. Now, I know I'm going to mispronounce some of these words, but just bear with me here, folks. Here's some info that links this all back to Babylon and Nimrod, which, if you've heard me talk before, I believe all of these occult practices go back to Babylon and Nimrod. Okay. Mendes is the Greek name for the ancient city of Dijidet, also known in ancient Egypt as Per-Benab Dijidet, the domain of the Ram Lord of Jidet. And Anpet, it is known today as Tel al-Ruba. The chief deities of Mendes were the ram deity, Beneb Jidet, Ba of the Lord of Jidet, who was the Ba of Osiris. A person's Ba was believed to be their essence. It can be translated as power, effectiveness, reputation, charisma. Basically sounds like spirit, And Osiris's Ba was represented by the hieroglyph for a ram, which is interesting because up to this point, we've been talking about goats. Somehow there's a transition between a ram to a goat. I can't find any information that I believe is accurate to present this, but something's going on here. Typically when you see this, they're hiding something, but I'm going to continue. As a result, Benab Djed was depicted as a ram or a ram-headed man and a living sacrifice ram, and a living sacred ram, thought to embody the god's essence, spirit, what have you. It was worshipped in the city of Dijidet, close to Osiris's cult center in Jiddu. The rams were mummified and buried with all of the pomp and ceremony of a pharaoh in their own necropolis, and his consort, the fish goddess Hatmahet, probably Semiramis from the Nimrod legend, folks. Like Nimrod's sister was Semiramis, she was also his lover, and after he was cut into pieces, she put his body back together and fashioned a phallus because that piece was missing, and she had sex with this thing, and she had Horus. And I'll continue on. With their child, Harpa Kered, Horus the child, or that's Tammuz and the Nimrod Semiramis thing. Horus's name would be Tammuz. They formed the triad of Mendes. Isis, Osiris's lover and sister, Isis being again Semiramis, and their son Horus, again Tammuz, are believed to have multiple names. For example, as mentioned earlier, many scholars say these names are just different names for Nimrod, Nimrod's sister and lover Semiramis, and their son Tammuz. Different cultures have different names for these beings, but it all seems to go back to Babylon and Nimrod. All right. One other thing I want to throw in here too, because I find the etymology of words absolutely fascinating, folks. And the etymology of the word pandemic, its origin, where it came from, is very interesting. Okay? Did you know the word panic originated from the terror that people felt during manifestations of the entity Pan or Satyrs? Most likely as people sacrificed to these entities manifested and scared the living daylights out of these people. I want to read to you the etymology real quick of this word, okay? Okay. From the French panique, from Greek panikon, literally pertaining to Pan, the god of the woods and fields, who was the source of mysterious sounds that caused contagious, groundless fear in herds and crowds, or in people in lonely spots. It kind of reminds me of the terror that people say they experience during demonic sleep paralysis experiences. And I just thought I'd throw that in there. One more word that's fascinating to me is the word genius, too, the etymology of that. Did you know the word implies that a child has a demonic spirit attached to it at birth that will guide the child and make him or her special? Check this out. Really, really weird. Right here it is. Attendant spirit present from one's birth, innate ability or inclination. And if you've heard me speak about this stuff before, folks, I believe through generational curses that spirits attach to children at birth. And, you know, that'd be a whole other video. I don't really want to get into that, but I just wanted to show you guys the origin of that word, the etymology of it. And it's really interesting to me. All right. That's all I have for this video, folks. You're welcome to join my spiritual warfare support group on Facebook if you like. The link is in the video description. Until next time, God bless you all in Jesus' name.